Hello everyone. Today, I'm going to talk about my research paper, reducing ambiguity in the requirement elicitation by the improvement technique and the microexpression. So let's go through some detail of the background. So first question we want to ask ourselves, what is the requirement elicitation? So the requirement elicitation is a process during the requirement engineering. So it usually happen when you like talking about the requirement and make sure you understand the engineering requirement that your stakeholders propose. So why they are so important, and we want to talk about this topic here because understanding the requirement from the stakeholder is the mean step and the first step to understand the product requirement. And once you start to do some coding work, you definitely need to understand exactly what the stakeholder want you to do on your product. If you have some misunderstanding on that their stakeholder meaning, you may have some wrong information and provide some wrong feedbacks and results, which will make you to increase your cost, your time, and some other like expansions on the money budgets and so on. It will give you a lot of mistakes and bad results if you don't understand exactly what the stakeholder want you to do, and why there's the requirement elicitation that's so hard for develop and the stakeholders, because the people will have a different culture background, even though they use the same language to communicate. Some of them are not native speaker. For example, one some German car industry worker want to communicate with the some car industry worker in the Japan. There's the language are different, and the translate maybe is not uh, cannot do a clear and absolutely 100% of work to help them understand each other. And even though there are no the language problem, it still have a lot of problem based on the stakeholder experience, idea, and there's stories, and there's culture background. So that's and that those difference will make that requirement elicitation process hard to get a great results. So, what is the micro expressions? Before we go to the improvements, let's talk about something about the psychology. So, why in this paper I want to use the micro expression to to help the develop and the stakeholder in the process of the requirement elicitation, is because the micro expression is a expression to tell others how the people's inner work, like uh, they have a they have a in inverse meaning in of the micro expression is called the macro expression. So the macro expression is really obvious to noted and it's really easy to catch. However, the micro expression, which is happen quickly and there will disappear in just 1 second. Sometimes you cannot catch that, and even though you catch that, you don't know what that mean um, when they're show on the face on your face on the face. But if once you understanding what's the micro expression meaning, that will become very useful for you to detect the inner idea of of people. and and that's why I want to introduce that message and combine some improvements during the to do that during the requirement elicitation process. So I will talk about three different levels improvement on my research paper. I don't go to very details in the presentation because they have lots of stats. So there are three main level divide into the connectivity level, the technical level, and their social network level. So let me explain what those three levels mean. So the first one is something like I talking about in the previous slide. So some may this level is introduce some message relate to people's feeling and their will based on the psychology knowledge to understand that message. For example, like the um, micro expression, but I'm not talking about the exact micro expression improvement on this level. I just like introduce some methods based on the micro expression in this level, and I will talk about the micro expression in a whole section, in a big section, one big section later after those three level of improvements. The second level is called the technical level. So what's the meaning of the technical level? So this one will meaning focus on the something like the engineering improvements. Unlike the first level, will based on the some knowledge of psychology. This one will based on some, for example, like the HCI model, like some machine learning machine learning model to help you understand that deeply when the stakeholder proposes something. The third one is called a social network level. This one maybe have a easy to understand what's that level representing. So this one is based on finding the social network of the stakeholder. So to understand where their social network look like, and what friends and maybe a certain group of people that the stakeholder contact frequently. It is easy for us to understand better what the stakeholders meaning and what they want the developer to make some change on the requirement and the project. Okay, so the micro expression, I mentioned this term um, briefly in the previous few slides. So this term you may hear from some movies or some courses and book, but there's less people's actually know what the micro expression is in the real life. So when I doing a questionnaire and I also provide a questionnaire table on my research paper, almost 18% people never hear and they don't know what is the micro expression, especially when their people don't have a high educational level knowledge. So so if the people want to using the micro expression to help their detect the others feelings, it will be hard to do that, and lots of people may need to do some training before using the micro expression. But why the micro expression is still working, and why I still want to introduce that message and combine the micro expression with some improvement, which I divided to the three levels in the previous slide, because the micro expression, imagine in that situation when you try to talk with your stakeholders, you want to ask them some question about the requirement, when you try to make an eye contact with he or she, and if the stakeholders avoid to see directly to you and avoid to maybe like find some beautiful word to answer your question, then they don't want to like um, make you so embarrassing to refute your question. But if you notice that micro expression, you will know that they don't want to make a direct eye contact with you, or maybe their eyesight have a slightly drawbacks. They don't want to see directly to you. In this case, you may understand your question maybe is not, it is an inappropriate question to ask, and this question maybe is not a correct answer they want to answer. And that's why I introduced micro expression, and combine that with some improvement in the research paper, and why I said this is useful too, but people will need some trainings on that. So in the conclusion for the research paper, I do some research on the improvement of the requirement elicitation process. And I also introduce a new message by using the micro expression, combining the micro expression with the three different levels improvements, to use those combination in the requirement elicitation. However, I didn't have any like real world experience to combine those two techniques together, and I don't have any like rough data to talk about how accuracy for the message to to use the message during the requirement elicitation. Um, but it's still a good chance to try those combination, because like I stated before, the micro expression is really helpful technique, and the other improvement also provide a well performance, and I also state those two on my research paper. But however, like cause those two those combination have some like need some time to do the further research. So there's no any like data and any like conclusion made in my research paper that those combinations have 100% perfect results when we try to use that in the requirement elicitation paper, the process. But it's still a good chance to know those combination, and encourage to use that on the requirement elicitation process.